didn't load it up on Facebook, which was weird.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's always little technical things, though, so you just have to. So yeah.
Only way of finding out, of course, is by going on your phone and having a look.
yeah, and double checking. So.
Well, we're all right on that one. So what about on Twitter? Not too worried about YouTube if it goes on there or not, but yep, we're okay. We're on all of them. So just give me 2 secs, mate. I'm just going to tweet it out, and then so I've got no one that does it for me, so I've got to do it myself.
Right, you have to. This is I have to get it all done.
No one sitting in the studio behind me going, I'll do it for you. Of course, I've updated Twitter, so Facebook, so of course everything is
it's all linked.
Yeah, it's all in there, but it's all a case of they've changed it a little bit, so I've just had to work out what I'm supposed to be pressing now. It's a shame because I tried to get stuff on the Ispian Facebook thing, and they don't allow any of my stuff on there, so I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says he's not blocked me, but it comes up every time I try and do it. It comes up, no, not allowed to post on that page. It never used to.
Right. Okay.
And now all of a sudden it's
they must have changed some security stuff.
Yeah.
Setting.
There's a couple of them, unless you put a description in, it don't take it anyway. So a couple of the summer league ones, if you don't put like what it's all about and etc on it, it
won't accept it.
Post foul type thing all the time. So there we go. C'est la vie. That's that one. And then on to here. Get rid of that. There we go. Well, welcome to the Reposs, the D&K Reposs Non League show, and of course in association with Reposs Retail Solutions and of course Square Media. And as you can see, Keith's not with me yet tonight. He's got business to deal with. He'll be with us later, hopefully. But you can see that good friend of the shows and Mark, the manager, of course, from Marlow, who's now a superstar on the BBC, has joined us tonight. So great to have you, mate.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be here. Glad my agent could sort out the fees.
So with the actual, it's this sort of start. Like, I mean, the last time you came on, I mean, it was beginning of last year, and Marlow were going great guns, and and I think when he came on, I don't think he'd even considered a go, had you? I think when he came on last time. So I mean, how did the rest of that sort of season pan out for you? Did it sort of turn a corner or?
Yeah, obviously not the way that we wanted it to. We missed out on the playoffs. I think we had, like you said, we had a great start, and then we got sort of probably when you get to sort of that the turn, if you like, what I guess what it's affectionately known as in sort of football terms, you kind of get to that sort of January period. We just didn't have enough in the tank, I don't think. So maybe a little bit lack of depth in the squad. Or sort of quality. So sometimes you've got the numbers, but not got the quality in the depth. So yeah, that was kind of the difference, I think, in the end. And there were some sides that were sort of stronger than us in the second half of the season. And yeah, we missed out. And then I think we kind of got to the summer, and I think like with a lot of clubs at our level, a number of sort of players that had been at the club for a few years, particularly with the COVID seasons. I think when you've got, normally I think we're all in the same boat, right? You probably lose 2 or 3 every year or whatever. The COVID seasons just meant that we had the squad together for probably a couple of years longer than we would have done in terms of it being intact. And so there were a number of them that, needed to take that chance and that opportunity to try and move themselves up the ladder. So they did that. And, and they do that with my blessing as well. And I'm always pleased when the players move up and sort of progress themselves. And so it's meant that we're in a little bit of a rebuilding phase during the summer. So yeah, we just kind of did that and then focused on getting off to a good start again this season. And so that's pretty much been the work really since the end of the last one.
So you had a bit of what they call a bit of an Arsenal then last year. Got to sort of just got to finish it off.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good, right? Because you're disappointed at the time, but I think as a manager, what you do is you go away at the end of the season, you have you reevaluate, you look at what you've done, what you might do differently next time. Look at the makeup of your squad, the types of players that you had, what went well, what didn't, and then on the back of that, try and make some improvements for the following year. So that's all you can do really, is try and learn from those experiences. And definitely had a bit of an Arsenal.
But I mean, with that, I mean, how through like last year and coming to the end of last year, I mean, how many have you managed to keep everybody that you wanted to keep? Shall we say, if we put it politically correct, did you keep everybody that you wanted to at the beginning of this year?
I think the reality is that I would love to have, in an ideal world, you'd love to keep them all right because they're great players. But I think there's a natural sort of bit of complacency that sort of creeps in after people have been at a club for a long time. And I want I want the best for the players. So as much as, as a manager, you'd sit there and think, yeah, I'd love to keep these players around me. I want them to go on and progress and fulfill their potential. So if it means that they've got to move upwards now to do that, then that works for me. So what I've kept or what we've kept are players that, there's still some room for them to go in terms of their development at Marlow. And, I want to help them to develop as players. And so they're players that want to be there. We've brought in some new players as well, some fresh blood, players that are, keen to be there, that have shown already in the first few matches that we've had that they're willing to buy into what we want them to do in terms of the system and the shape and the approach. And so far, it's been really pleasing in terms of the response from the squad, and that's been really from day one of pre-season, right? So I think I'm probably a little bit more old school in that we do a lot of there's quite a bit of running up front in our pre-season and really throughout the season as we try and maintain our fitness levels. But yeah, they've come in and done a good job, and so far so good with regards to the makeup of the new squad.
I mean, do you get to a situation though where as a young manager like yourself as well, do you actually get to that stage where though you look at it and you learn from maybe mistakes you think you might have made last year during the campaign as well, that you can sort of build on and think, right, this year I'm going to do it a little bit differently? Absolutely.
I think if you're a manager and you're not evaluating and sort of self-critiquing, then I don't really know what you're doing. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm still going to make mistakes now. I'm going to make mistakes next season and the season after and the season after that. But what you try to do is you try to minimize the number of mistakes that you made and try to minimize the impacts that they have. So what you hope is you make, fewer smaller mistakes than than big ones. And so, and also I think sometimes it's good for you to, because when you have a little bit of a clear out and a reset and reshape your squad, it helps you to sort of refocus on, your core principles of how you want the game to be played, how you want your squad to behave, act, play, train, all of that. So it's just a natural kind of, like I said, point to reevaluate. But I do that all the time. After every game, I come back and I reflect, whether we win or lose, whether or not we did done the right things. In fact, I was on the phone to Steads, one of the coaches at the club just now, and we were talking about the fact we won the game on the weekend, but we were talking about something that we did that actually we probably need to learn from for next time. So it's a constant sort of learning process for us.
I mean, you talked about your games this year. I mean, when you see the pictures come out, and I mean, do you still get sort of like that? How can we put it? That sort of schoolboy sort of excitement when you're waiting for those fixtures to come out and trying to see who you've got when and where.
Yeah, definitely get the buzz. I love that. The fixtures come out. and it makes it feel real because pre-seasons, I call it a bit of a necessary evil, right? It's a process that you must go through to get fit. A couple of weeks before, when you're kind of, they're starting to get a little bit fatigued with the hard work, then the fixtures come out, FA draws come out, it feels very real. And so, yeah, I definitely still get that buzz. I think I'm probably a little bit more, as you do with experience, I'm a little bit more relaxed as we approach the first game now. I think that when I think back to the early days of my managerial career, that, the first day that I felt like there's a lot of pressure on the game, I'm a little bit more relaxed about it now. And hopefully that manifests itself in terms of the way that I conduct myself with the players. And so it means that they're a little bit more relaxed in terms of how they approach it. And hopefully that gives us a better chance of executing on the opening day. And I think if you can get off to a good start, if you can get a positive result in your first game, then it's always helpful, right? Because the games come thick and fast, and what you don't want is to pick up a couple of quick defeats and then feel that there is even more pressure on the next game. So, yeah, I still get the buzz, but I've learned a lot about how to sort of manage those days now.
I mean, I'm just looking at your first game, and I mean, a hat trick, a sending off, 2 own goals. And what they say, the youngest, is it the youngest owners in football as well, coming to you as well? It was like it was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. The reality is, I think we were good value for the win. Like you said, it was great because David come to the club and got a hat trick on his debut, which is great. You always want your forward to get off the mark as early as possible. So it was great for him to do that and get a hat trick, and a great hat trick at that. You're sort of ahead in a game or whatever, and then you find yourself down to 10 men on what is probably one of the hottest days of the year. Again, the players having to play the whole of the second half with only 10 men. But then I thought we were very, very good and disciplined in the second half, kept our shape really well. And then, we got a last minute winner, but I think it was deserved. So it had a little bit of everything. But I was really pleased with the efforts of the players. And like I said, you come out with 3 points at the end of the first day, you have to be happy with that.
7 goals, and you scored 6 of them.
I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah, and I mean the own goals were just you just I can't imagine we could do that again if we tried. And just little mistakes, I think, in terms of people going with the wrong foot or probably not being quite deep enough. Nothing major, so you just kind of have that, we drew a line under it at the end of the game, and then just bounced onto the Tuesday game. But yeah, us having scored 2 own goals, I think that, especially to make it 3-3, I think they probably thought that was it and they were going to go away with a point. But fortunately, we managed to pull it out of the bag.
So I mean, when was the sending off? And was you? And no one's ever happy with the sending off, but was you happy with the decision of the sending off? Shall we say?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. It was just before half time, was right in front of the dugout. I think Jordan's gone, he's won the ball. It's been a little bit of one of those where, you win the ball and then they talk about sort of the follow through. But I think sometimes if the ball squirms away from, underneath your foot on contact, then, there's very little you can do. So I think it's one of those where I think that if that was a red card, then there probably would have been a couple of others in the game. But, it was what it was. And so we then had to adapt to go down to 10 men against a side where I felt that we were really, really comfortable. In the first half on last Saturday, I thought we were really, really comfortable. We probably should have been had a couple more goals to our name, but we didn't. And then all of a sudden it gives them a bit of a lift. So you have to manage that, have to stay disciplined and wait for your opportunities, which we did. And then, whether or not it comes in the 46th or the 95th minute, as it was, or 97th minute, whatever it was, then you just want to make sure that you take it. And thankfully, David was on hand to do that.
Because you bounced on then to the, quickly to the Tuesday night to Thatcham Town, and you scored a late winner. They score a late equaliser this time. But all I could see on this, on this football webpage is just yellow everywhere. Sounded like I mean, the Tuesday game was crazy because I thought we played really, really well. Got ourselves in front and controlled the game for to a degree in terms of where our keeper wasn't really having to to make many saves, and then they score in the last minute with a goal that was controversial from the aspects of when the lads played the through ball, the linesman's flag's gone straight up, but the referee's just overruled the linesman without speaking to him. So we were
we weren't happy to say the least. You know, in the last minute goal was one thing, or in the 4th minute of injury time, but then to the referee to overrule the linesman, probably, I wasn't the happiest. So, but it was what it was. And like I said to the players afterwards, they played really well. So if you come out of the first 2 games, 4 point, if you win your home games, enjoy your away games, you're never too far away, right? So that's what we'd done at the end of that game. We knew that we played pretty well, we probably deserved more. And so we should take some confidence from that. And, we had to do that going into what we knew would be a tough game on Saturday against Tame, with all of that was coming with it in terms of the TV and the early kickoff and the fact that they're a good side in their own league. So we had to try and draw what we could from the Thatcham game and then make sure we prepared well on Thursday.
Well, before we go on to that game, I mean, you fixture, of course, coming up Saturday. That's another tricky one for you, isn't it? Away to Tooting, because they're always going to be one of those teams that are going to be up there fighting for promotion. So, I mean, how do you sort of get yourself ready for that one?
Yeah, they're always a good side. Or the games tend to be really close between us and them. I think, in fact, we won the last one, but I think before that, we probably in the previous few seasons, I think we've drawn pretty much every game. So we know it'll be a tough game. I think Ash does a good job of getting getting good players, getting them organised. And they carry a lot of threat, but then they're also robust physically. So it's never going to be an easy game. But we've got our sort of approach and our methods of how we sort of build through training on the Thursday into the game on the Saturday. And so we just need to make sure that we sort of stick to that process. Got a little bit of information on them to try and maximise that, and then go on Saturday and try and execute. So that's all we're really thinking about.
So, I mean, the FA Cup game, I mean, everybody said, saw that it was yourself and Tame, but when did you first find out you was being picked for it? And what was that the first time that, Marlow had been on the TV? And if so, what was the excitement? And, before the day, what was it like?
Yeah, I think we found, there was rumours maybe a couple of weeks before, but nothing was confirmed. So you kind of just, you just kind of get on with it until someone tells you different, right? And then then you find out that it's happening, and then the time moves forward. So that was that builds a little bit of excitement. So what I tried to do was to try and keep that emotion out of it until as late as possible, right? So just the Thursday before the game, and that was really, really hard. But it's something I had to try and do consciously. So communicate with the players as early as possible before even the big kickoff for the league, that look, this was happening. We're going to kick off at 12:30. It means we need to be there early. Just make sure you get yourselves organised to do that, and then say no more about it. And so we managed to do that. I think we were quite good at keeping them focused on the next game. And then as you get to the Thursday, and there's a little bit of excitement building, but I think what we've been able to do by then was demonstrate that, look, just by us preparing for the next game and how important training was for us to do that. I think on Thursday we trained really well. And there's a little bit of excitement around the club. The social media stuff starts to pick up. You get a few people asking me about it. It was great that, as it starts to get on social media, you're sort of at work, and a couple of people were asking me as well. So it's quite good. So it's quite sort of enjoyable in the build up. But then, then there is that little edge. And like I said to the lads before we went out on Saturday, that there is a little bit of pressure on this, because the last thing that you want is to have all of this fanfare and you have the cameras come down and then you don't go out and execute. You don't go out and perform. So it does come with a little bit more pressure, but we should embrace that. And I think we did embrace that. And, thankfully on Saturday, I think we were the better side.
So was that a tough thing to do, to try and keep everybody sort of heads on their shoulders, and and was you getting, like Keeper said to me before, and our other managers that I speak to, all of a sudden your phone's ringing from all these different agents because they want to send you through players and stuff like this because you're on the TV?
Yeah, so that can happen. But I think the good thing about, I think, the way that our sort of management team's set up at Marlow is that I can have a bit of time to think about those things. So I think it is really important to try and keep the players grounded and keep them focused on what they need to do next. I think sometimes if you're a manager and you don't have a great supporting team, then you have to think about so many things in terms of like the delivery of the session on the Thursdays and, you know, all of those kind of logistical pieces that you don't get enough time to think about how can I try and keep these players grounded. So actually me thinking, communicate early, don't talk about it again for the next week or whatever, was a conscious decision. Getting to training and then having a laugh and a joke with the lads before and then getting them into their training session was a conscious decision. Not talking about the TV at all really until the end of the session was a conscious decision. So it is difficult, but I think if you've got a bit of time, like I said, I have, fortunately, because I've got some good people around me, then it just enabled me to kind of do that consciously and then allow the players to kind of just arrive on the day without too much stress, I didn't think.
Well, I suppose in a way, I suppose it's just having that good staff around you as well, just to sort of like almost try and calm the situation down. You know, we've got, you know, Thatcher, we've got, you know, Walton and Hersham. Do you know what I mean? And try and concentrate on those. But I suppose you've got to have a good mentality of players and inside the club to be able to do that, though, because I mean something like that must have been very, very big for a club like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so it's huge. The opportunity to play, you know, in front of the live stream, going out on the BBC, and then having whatever it was, 19,000 people sort of watching. You know, 300 odd in the ground. It's a great opportunity. Yet, absolutely for the players, great opportunity for the club to sort of raise our profile. All of that is true, but you know, I think when we talk about mentality of players and the squad and, you know, I guess generally around the sort of playing side of the club, that's the whole point of the management team. That's what we sit down and think about before a ball is kicked or a run is made in pre-season, right? What do we want? How do we want to achieve it? How do we want the players to kind of conduct themselves? What do we need from the squad? What do we need from the group? So you think about all of that. And so when you're recruiting players, you want to make sure you've got people that have got the right mindset or that match, you know, what our aspirations are. And I think we've done that. I think we've recruited well. The players that we've retained want to be there. They understand how, you know, how we do things. And so I think it really helped. So it felt really, really calm in there on Saturday before the game, which gave me a bit more confidence that, you know, we're definitely going to go out and build on the last couple of performances. So it was good from that perspective.
So you know, you got that sort of, I mean, I'll ask you to talk us through it, you know, the day in a minute, but I always think of it, and you probably say, no, that's not the case, but isn't it a bit of a disappointment for you of an FA Cup, FA trophy, that you win the game, you get all excited because you may be sitting around pressing refresh on a computer to see who you get in the next round, and then it pings down and you get Uxbridge. You know, no disrespect to Uxbridge, because they must be feeling exactly the same. And what I mean by that is you've got somebody that's inside your own league when you want to take on somebody maybe from the Southern League or somebody from wherever. Do you know what I mean? So just somebody different, you know, you know, that thing. Does that become a bit of a disappointment when you see those draws? In a way, I know you're through in the club, but you want to find, you know, you want to play somebody that you maybe not played for a long time, or, you know, you might want to play a Ware, or you might want to play a, you know, Cheshunt or something like that. Sort of, that's not inside your own league. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we it is a little bit. Yeah, I think this point is probably the one. I think probably Danny feels the same, right? Got a lot of time for Danny, but I think we probably could. We're not desperate to see each other before the two league games, so I think it would have been nice to play someone that, you know, to play someone that's not in our league. I think it's the same. We got the same in the trophy. I think we've got Binfield, and you know, you're going to play them a couple of times in the season anyway. So yeah, I think sometimes with those FA competitions, you'd like to play a new side, someone outside your league, you know, maybe test yourself against slightly different opposition. But it is what it is. And I think, you know, when we go into the draw, I think my primary thing is, can we get a home draw? That's what I kind of want first. And so, yeah, that's kind of my hope, that we get a home draw, because I think you always feel more confident at home. But yeah, it would be nice to play someone new, someone that we haven't played before, test myself against a manager that I haven't played against. But yeah, I think Danny and I have had a number of encounters, so we know each other quite well. So there'll probably be a little bit of comfort in that as well, is that, you know, we probably know each other quite well, and we probably plan to play against each other, you know, and both of us will believe that we can get a bit of success on the day. So should still be a good game.
So what's the difference then? You know, you go into that cup game, you know, and I mean, talk us through the day. I mean, is it just a case of you look at stuff that you have in, you know, as a plan for the club for a 3 o'clock kickoff? You just move everything forward 2.5 hours. Is that something that you do? You just say, right, okay, all we do is what we do at 3. We just shuffle it all forward, and you know, by 2.5 hours. Is that something that you do, or you know, did you get around the players and say, I want you to do this, make sure you've eaten this or whatever else because it's an earlier kickoff?
Yeah, so there is that, and I think I think in my experience that and to be fair, I sort of had a chat with my brother about this because obviously he you know he's involved in the game and he's at the level where he's experienced a number of these early kickoffs, and so I know it is difficult for players, particularly in terms of the fueling. So you know, eating to sort of be eating your pre-match food, whatever that is, whether that you know you're a sort of pasta kind of person, or whether you're an eggs, beans on toast, or whatever it is that you eat, to try and eat that a couple of hours earlier or 3 hours earlier than you normally would is a little bit, makes it a little bit out of sync. So I didn't put too much on the players with regards to that. I just trusted them to kind of do what they needed to do in terms of eating and all that and everything else. But other than that, you just try to keep it as the timings as much as possible. So yeah, you know, we normally arrive here, you know, X amount of time before the kickoff, do exactly the same thing here, just to try and mean that once they've arrived, you know, then it's just as not regular as possible, so that there is very little sort of for them to think that this is different because the cameras are there. And again, that's a conscious decision. So for me, everything else is the same. Turn up, same amount of time warming up, you know, same amount of time between you coming in from your warm up, between going out to kick off. Just try and keep those things as consistent as you can. And then, like I said, it then for me removes the possibility of there being this kind of emotional spike, you know, that this kind of chemical reaction in the body where you got too much adrenaline or whatever else, and then go out and maybe you know, make a mistake or make a rash decision. So again, conscious decision from us, just keep everything consistent. But yeah, in terms of them fueling themselves, I just had to trust them that they would figure out what works best for them. Yeah.
But is it also one of those things as well? You know, you've got, maybe you and your coaches have got a team in mind, and you think, right, that's me 1 to 11, that's who I want. But then because it's an early kickoff, you see one of your players turn up, and you see him, you know, in the dressing room, and all of a sudden you think, so I don't know if he's going to be, you know, ready for that, and you slightly change it. I mean, I'm not saying it happened, but you know, I mean, is it something like that comes into your mind?
Yeah, that happens to me quite a lot. You know, regardless of the kickoff time. So there's quite often times that I'll come to the game and I've probably got 10 of my starting 11 penned in, and I'll make my final decision based on the body language of the players as they walk in. I mean, I'd probably do that. You know, I'd say that I'd probably go through that process at least once every sort of 4 or 5 games. That is something where I'll turn up at a game, I'm unsure which player is going to start, and then I just trust my gut on how I see them walk in, their body language, their kind of energy, their aura almost as they come in, and I'll make a decision between the 2 players. Like I said, that happens to be a lot. On Saturday, I kind of turned up. I knew what was in my mind. We had to make a change because Jordan was suspended, and he's really influential for us. But understanding how Tame were going to play, or how we expected Tame to play, and how we expected them to line up, meant that we made a little bit of a sort of tweak and sort of something sort of slightly outside of the box, I guess, from our perspective. And we think that it works really, really well for us in the first half. Less so at the beginning of the second half, and then we went a bit more orthodox then. But by then, I think we really got a foothold in the game.
I mean, talk us through that though. I mean, so you've arrived in there. I mean, was it? I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. I was stuck at work. But I mean, was it a one fixed camera still?
Yeah. So you have the one sort of fixed camera, but it's on the opposite side of the dugout. So I think, you know, it was visible. It's quite interesting. So that was the other thing. So I went down to have a look at because I knew they were putting a scaffold and stuff in. So went down to have a look at that the day before, just to see what it was like, to see whether or not I thought it would impact the players and kind of, you know, really sort of spike them. But actually it was quite modest, and the way that they kind of do it was really, really good. So I thought, no, that's fine. It shouldn't be too much. So to get there, they have a little walk around on the pitch. They have a look. I think they were quite at ease with it. and then I think that helped them to settle. So yeah, you have the camera set up. You have to fix the one camera, and they're sort of obviously shuffling it around. But it was like I said, it felt as though it wasn't going to sort of make them, do too much emotionally. So yeah, I was quite happy with that when they arrived.
What was the chairman's reaction when he found out he was going to be on the TV?
Yeah. I think it's good for the club, right? So how can we make sure that we, I guess, leverage it, maximize it, to the best of our ability? Because social media thing is one side of it. I think it felt like a big occasion, for the club, and rightly so. And so getting some of the younger sort of members of the club involved, some of the sort of the youth players as mascots. That was great, so that they can kind of share in the day. And they, it was great because, Rod, who does the announcements at the ground, had them turn around and wave towards the camera. So that's something that will live with them for, forever. So that was great. But yeah, I think from the club's perspective, we wanted to make sure that, like I said, the FA Cup's a big thing to everyone. It's a big thing to Marlow because of our history. And so we wanted to make sure that we did it justice, really, and that everyone at the club felt as though they were involved. And I really feel as though it felt like a club day, from the youth players through to our players through to the supporters. I think we all felt as though we kind of contributed and also owned the day. So it was it was a great experience.
So now, how do you bring the players back down again?
I think they're fine, right? So we, the main thing we wanted to do first of all was to win on Saturday, and I think we did that. We played really well in the first half. As I said, and I think we were, were in control, and then we know that we probably, got caught a little bit short at the beginning of the second half. There are reasons for that, but I think, we know we got caught short there. And then I think actually towards the end of the game, we were the stronger team. So we probably had a 15, 20-minute spell where we weren't in the ascendancy. And so that will be our focus, So actually at the end of the game, it was more a case of, look, well done. Main objective is achieved. We're through to the next round. Great performance. But there is still this thing that we need to work on. There is this area that we need to be better. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a squad where we're focused more on trying to improve and develop week on week than we are worrying too much about, anything else. And so if we can keep the players focused on that, turn up on Thursday, relate it to what they've done on the match day, and they will all have gone home and watched it. So we've got the video camera, but it won't give them quite the same angles that they would have got from the live stream and the recording of the stream. So they can go and watch that. They can see what they've done well. They can, they'll probably learn a little bit about themselves as they watch themselves on there as well. And so we want to hope that we can use that to our benefit in terms of developing players. So they'll be absolutely fine. They'll come in on, some will come in tomorrow, come in on Thursday, train hard and get ready for the bank holiday double header.
So I'm looking at this. You got, as we said, Tooting and Mitcham on the Saturday, and of course then on the Monday you've got Sutton Common Rovers, who started off really well, haven't they?
Yeah. So they got Lee over there to help Darren out towards the end of last season. Lee knows a lot of players. He'll recruit well. He's got a good work ethic, understands the game really well. Nice guy. So he's gonna. He'll do a good job in terms of getting them, the right players, and then helping to get them organised, which he's done. So I'm not surprised by their start. Maybe a few people are, but I'm not surprised by their start. Quite often, if you look at who's on the coaching staff or who's in the management team of a club, you can kind of get a feel for whether or not they're going to be effective if you know them well. So that doesn't surprise me. So that'll be another tough game at home, but we've got to back ourselves at home, and we've also been doing well, and we also have a great management team with a great skill set and good experience. And so we Tooting will be tough away, Sutton Common will be tough at home, but this is where we're at, and if we want to push on and have a good season, we need to try and make sure that we pick up some positive results.
Of course, Branson from then you got the Uxbridge game, and then you got the Binfield, and then Chipstead. Do managers, and I don't think I've ever asked this question before, but do managers at sort of our level, are they happy to have sort of like one Saturday they play FA Cup and then the next Saturday they play FA Trophy, or would you rather it be a bit further apart, or at least a game in between? I mean, is it a bit of an annoyance that you've got to play sort of 2 cup competitions, 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have a little bit of a break, but I guess it will always depend on where you are, right? So it can be if you're going really well in the league, you don't want to stop playing league games because you want to get as many points on the board as possible whilst you're in good form. If you're in a bit of a rut or you've not been in a great vein of form, then actually having a break of a cup competition can be a welcome break. And so it depends on how you use it. So, I'd look at that and think, right, we're not in a great space. Actually, let's take a bit of pressure off the players because they're not playing for 3 points. They're, playing in a knockout competition. Try and reset the sort of the mental approach for them. Try and get them refocused, and then hopefully get a couple of positive performances, and then bring that back into the league. I would prefer to have a bit of a gap in between them, but for me, we're just glad to play football and happy to play anyone. So we'll do that. Where it does become a bit more tricky is when you start to make progress in these competitions and then you start to fall behind with the league games, because then you get the fixture backlog, and if the weather gets bad and you start to get games cancelled, you can find yourself playing midweeks all the time, which happened to us to a degree last season. But we just want to play football and we want to try and win as many games as possible. So we'll take that if that's kind of we're victims of our own success in that space.
I mean, look at the 2 teams you've got playing the cup competitions, and I've just quickly, I know it's very early on, you've only played 2 league games, etc., but you're absolutely mirrored, aren't you? Uxbridge and Binfield both +1 goal difference and 4 points, exactly the same as yourself. So I mean, those 2 games are going to be 2 tough games back to back.
Yeah, and again, management teams that I know quite well. So like I said, I've been up against Danny a number of times over the years, so I kind of get him and understand what to expect from his teams. More so in terms of them, how he kind of gets his players up for games and how they work as opposed to systems and stuff. And then with Dodds over at Binfield, I used to play with him, get on with him quite well. So kind of know what to expect there. And also that a lot of the players are quite familiar between the teams, so it does have a bit of a derby feel. So I wouldn't expect there to be too much in the games. That becomes even more important for you then to try and minimize your mistakes. So when I was talking earlier on about trying to make good decisions and trying to make fewer, smaller mistakes, then that's really where it can show itself.
And of course, you've got one of those teams in there. What's it like as a manager? Because you would have had it last year as well. Did you enjoy your trip to Guernsey? And if so, are you looking forward to it again this time around?
It's really tricky, right? I think it's a difficult call. I think in reality, if I look at it this year, I'd want us to go over the Friday night. What we did last year was we stayed at a hotel at Gatwick Airport, woke up, got on the flight, and then went out. And whilst that's helpful because the flight's at wherever it is, 8 o'clock in the morning, so you've got to be there for 6 something. So you have to work your way backwards from there. It's helpful to get the players there in the hotel. It's still an incredibly long day, right? Because you're up to get checked in at 6, have breakfast, fly. You land there about 10 o'clock. You got to walk around for a bit. I definitely want us to go over the Friday night. It's a great experience though, because you do get you play in front of a good crowd. They're a good side, particularly at home. So I think we'll learn from that. We'll use last year as a learning experience and make sure that this year we're better prepared. So look, I mean, it doesn't happen every day, does it? So we shouldn't really complain about it. And they've got to make the trip, whether it's 19 times during the season. So doing it once shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Is it one of those things feels a bit like an international game?
Yeah, I don't like. You know what? I don't like it though. I don't like what? Sorry, what I mean what I don't like is I don't like anything that presents a challenge to the playing squad, almost treating it like a normal day. So what I mean by that is I think my experiences with players, if there is an opportunity for there to be something which feels sort of like slightly outside of the normal realm of the preparation for a game, then there's normally like a big sort of disparity. You're going to get a great performance or a flat one. So I don't really like that side of it, but I understand that we've all got to do it, and so it's it's a fair thing, right? We've all got to fly over there. So whoever adapts to that best probably can steal a bit of a march on the others. But like I said, we're going to try and go out on the Friday this year, I would think, well, that's what I'll be asking the club to do anyway. Get us out on the Friday, get us there so that we've got plenty of time to sort of have a proper pre-match, get to the ground and arrive with the right energy levels, because I think we were a bit flat last year.
I mean, with the actual league itself that you're in, and we always used to call it like the jigsaw league because it was just felt a bit like everybody that was left just gets put in one league. But I mean,
yeah,
how is the league for you? Do you feel the league? You know, I think through the years it seems to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Every single year. I mean, is it a good challenge for you and the lads at Marlow?
Yeah, it's a strong league, definitely. There's some really good sides in there. Some sides that have recruited really well. And the footprint of, I guess the footprint is such that you tend to be able to draw players from quite a few different directions. So if you think, I guess you look at like maybe where Tooting are, or as you go out towards sort of South Park and that sort of way, they're pulling players from a very different sort of direction than say ourselves or an Uxbridge or a Northwood, who will be pulling players from a different geographical area. And actually what you find is there is something in the sort of regional approach to football. Like there is something sort of slightly different about the way that teams from different areas sort of play, sometimes different leagues. And so, yeah, it feels a bit of a mishmash at times. And then, we've had a few teams that have come up that have been promoted into the league, but they're really, really strong sides as well. And then the teams that have come down, like Leatherhead and Merstham, they're also good sides with good managers there. So yeah, it's a tough competitive league, but that's what we'd want. That's what everybody wants. It should mean that there's plenty of ups and downs, and if you can get a little bit of consistency, that I think as we get towards the turn this year, I'd expect there to be more teams that are in contention for the playoffs than there were maybe last year, right? So that's what I would expect, just looking at the teams and the balance of it and how teams have strengthened and how they've recruited. So should make for a good season for spectators. As a manager, you just need to try and draw some consistency out of your squad and just try and get some points on the board early doors.
I mean, with the league, though, when you first went into it this season, I mean, you're looking at it with you and your coaching staff and maybe your players. I mean, has there been a lot of sort of player changes in the squads, and also as well, what was your sort of target for Marlow?
Yeah, so I think firstly the sort of the target for us was about first of all getting the squad right. And look, I believe that, like I said, that you get to the turn, if you're in and around it and you can make a run for the playoffs, I think there'll be a lot of clubs that could be in that position. For me, the real target was trying to get the squad bedded in as quickly as possible, because you're going to have a number of changes. We knew that. How quickly can we get them all to gel? How quickly can we build some consistency out of them? How quickly can we make decisions on players? Because what we had to do more this year was, as I say, sort of kiss a lot more frogs this year. We had to have a look at a lot more trialists, try and make decisions on people quickly, because you don't want to have them, a trialist that you're not going to keep with you for the season around too long, because it's not fair on them, but then it's not fair on the players that you're going to keep, because you need to try and get minutes into your team. So we had all of that, what you're thinking about. And so that meant that our target was really, look, let's just see how quickly we could gel the team, pick up points as quickly as we can, and then look at where we are in January. And if we're in striking distance, which is possible, definitely, then we back ourselves to go on and have a great second half. But what we need to focus on really is building this squad and getting them bedded in and understanding the system. So that was really the target. So I didn't really have anywhere I thought, we're not going to go and win the league. I'm not saying that we're going to go and finish second or third. I was just like, look, let's just see how quickly we can get bedded in. I know where we don't need to fear anyone, but we still need to learn about how this group will respond to setbacks, and when results don't go our way, how quickly we can pick them up, because that's the bit that we don't know yet. In terms of the other teams that are around, it was always going to be tough. I think I looked at probably fancy teams like Leatherhead. I saw that they've recruited some really good players. I thought that they do pretty well. They've obviously started a little bit slowly, but we're only 2 games in, so I'm sure Tufts will get that right. Again, you'd expect Basingstoke to be there or thereabouts. They strengthened, brought in, a couple of good forward players. So I thought they'd do quite well. Took Ashley Artwell from us at Marlow. So I thought that they do well. Again, they had a, I think, tough result in one of their opening couple of fixtures. So I think what it shows is that nothing's given here. It feels a bit like the championship in professional football, where just on any given day, any side can beat anyone. And I guess I'm kind of hoping that that's how it stays, because creates that bit of a level playing field. And then when you get to the turn, the pressure will be more on some than others, right? And then we'll see how they react to it.
So who is going to win your league then? If you're not, I'm not saying you're not going to win it or you ain't going to win it. If you're not going to win it, who would you, if you was putting your, and you was allowed to, and you got your £5 note, where would you be putting your money on?
I think you'd be hard pushed to probably really look past Leatherhead. I think for me, I think that they'll have the financial resources to have a few shots on the target. And what I mean by that is, if your financial constraints are greater, then you probably can only have maybe 2 centre forwards in your squad, right? If you've got a bit more money, you can maybe have 3 or 4, so you can probably keep more players happy. And I think that gives you more of an opportunity that you're going to get it right with one of your 3 or 4 signings than someone else that's only able to bring in maybe one main striker and a backup. So I think you'd be hard pushed to look past them. I think Tufts is a good coach. I think the dark horses will be Westfield, because I think Simon Lane's recruited really well there. Players that some people know and some won't. And whilst I'll be open to say he's probably not my favourite manager to share the touchline with, I definitely respect the fact that his teams are well coached, and he's probably one of the more difficult people that you come up against in terms of his systems. He's really, really flexible in terms of how his teams play. They're quite hard to pin down. And he's really I think he's probably one of the better in-game managers that I kind of come up against. So for me, whether or not someone's on your Christmas card list all the time, and I don't dislike him, I'm just saying that but yeah, you can respect the fact that I think on the touchline he's probably one of the best in game that we have in the division.
Well, have you seen the draw today? Have you seen that the draw's come out for the League Cup today?
Yeah, I saw that we got Binfield. I think we got Binfield. So yeah, I mean, and we got them in the trophy. We got that. Yeah, so I think we're going to play them 4 times. So yeah, I mean, look, again, we want to win every game, and if we can take something from the League Cup game and learn it, I think we're going to probably play them twice quite quickly, because we've got the trophy and then we've got the League Cup. I think it has to be played by the end of September.
Right, yeah.
So yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not too sure where they're situated compared to you. Could you get them in the county cap as well? Or are they not in the same cap?
We could do. Yeah. We could do, and it's probably that'll probably happen. So we could definitely get them in the county cup. Yeah, in the Bucks. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. If we won all 4, I'd be delighted playing them 4 times. So I'd be glad to play them a 5th. So yeah, it's just just another game.
Well, for those who Isthmian clubs and don't know what the draw is, we'll just quickly go for it. Round 1, which is, as Mark says, got to be played by the end of September, is Binfield v Marlow, Chatham Town versus Sheppey United, Chichester City versus Burgess Hill Town, Coggeshall Town versus Basildon United, Felixstowe and Walton versus Witham, Grays versus Tilbury, I'm going to get this wrong, so I apologise straight away. New Salamis versus Chertsey Town, Ramsgate versus Hive Town. And then round 2 by the middle of October, it's Basingstoke United versus Binfield or Marlow, Chichester City or Burgess Hill Town versus Haywards Heath, Coggeshall Town or Basildon versus Holbridge Sports, Corinthian versus Sittingbourne, East Grinstead Town versus Leatherhead, Grays or Tilbury versus Great Wakering Rovers. Probably without, I don't know, saying from the hip, maybe they're tired around. Morden and Tiptree versus #United. Mersham versus Chatham or Sheppey. New Salamis or Chertsey versus Felixstowe or Witham. Ramsgate or High versus Faversham. Sevenoaks Town versus Tooting and Mitcham United. South Park versus Ashford Town Middlesex. Three Bridges versus Sutton Common Rovers. Walton and Hersham versus Northwood. Westfield versus Southall, and Whitehawk versus Ashford United. And so that's got to be played by the middle of October. So fancy your chances there then? 2 away games there.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, we know the teams quite well. So, you know, if we can get past Binfield, we know Basingstoke quite well. We turned up there last year and um, gave a good account of ourselves and got 3 points there. So, you know, nothing to fear. But there would be tough games. So yeah, whoever whether we beat Binfield or not, and I'm sure that in the League Cup, right, that both sides normally make a few changes and give a few opportunities to players that maybe haven't had that many minutes. So that'll be the case, and then we'll see who wants it more on the day. But yeah, we definitely look to go to Binfield and try and get the right result.
So my question to you as a manager, and I've asked this question quite a few times, different managers, and I still don't get my head round these cup competitions, because we've got FA Cup. Yes, there's money involved. We know there's money involved. FA Trophy, there's a little bit less money involved. League Cup and County Cup, probably less money involved. But, and please don't take this the wrong way, but if you're looking at betting chances, Marlow stand more chance of winning possibly the League Cup and the County Cup than what they do FA Trophy and FA Cup. So why is it that managers don't take the County Cup and the League Cup more seriously than they do?
I think, well, I speak from my perspective, I do take them seriously. I want to win every game. So I think sometimes there is a misunderstanding that because I might give a few players an opportunity in the League Cup, if you've not been playing in the league games, and normally because of fixtures becoming thick and fast by the time you get your League Cup games, so it's right for people to need a rest. And for me, it's more for the player if they go in and they don't take it as a serious game, because then they're not going to give the best performance, and then they can't knock on the door again about a league game, right? So I absolutely want to win that game. I want to win the game at Binfield, and but at the same time, we have as a squad, we understand that we're only going to be successful if we can keep as our squad together, and we can all work collectively for the season. So people need rests, people lose form, people need minutes. We need to keep people active. So that will happen in the League Cup, County Cup as well. Like we in the Bucks especially, there's some clubs where you can have some great fixtures with great crowds. Slough bring a lot of support. Maidenhead, we've got Wickham, MK Dons, Reading, the enter teams in there as well. So you absolutely want to win games so that you can go and play those sides and get in play in front of a big crowd. So they're very much live fixtures for us. So yeah, I'll make changes potentially, especially if we've had a run of games. But there have been times when, if the game's been quite adequately spaced, that I haven't made changes and I've just carried on with the same side. So, but like I said, it's more for the player going in. If they think that, this is a game that's not taken that seriously, and they're going to go in with their, not have their foot fully on the gas, because then they can't knock on the door again.
See, because most of the managers that I've seen, that I've been involved with, it will be like a completely different 11, or almost a completely different 11. And you think, so why would you do that? Play your team's just won maybe 6 on the bounce, or 4 on the bounce, or 3 on the bounce. Play the same team, get to the final, and you've actually won something. Do you know what I mean? Rather than sort of like turning up and playing a step 5 side in the County Cup or whatever else, and getting turned over and you don't win. I mean, I remember, when I was with Harlow, we went to Southend a couple of times, and I remember going to Southend on one occasion. We got there, and the sort of thought process of some of the fans, and even some of the Southend fans, was that the star striker that they had at Harlow was going to be nicked by Southend, because Southend desperately needed a striker, and the likelihood is that he was going to do it. And listen, I used to call him the Machine, and I had that on the back of one of my shirts when I walked in. And the guys went, and they knew the name of the striker straight away. And basically, I think 5-10 minutes into the game, he's popped up and scored a goal against Southend at Roots Hall, and I just turned around. And, by the way, that's the Machine, And when we came back from that, we actually signed one of their players rather than them signing one of ours. But it's one of those things where, especially when you come up against those big teams, like you just said, like you might have MK Dons and stuff like that in your sort of County Cup. Is that the one when you might look at it a little bit different, or do you wish that they would take it a little bit more seriously as well, those sort of professional clubs, because they come in with mostly under 18s and 21s and stuff like that?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a chance for you to scout them, right? So, my thing is that like I said, I take the game seriously. I think when you play against those sides, you're aware that even with them playing like under 21s players, I think we played MK Dons a few years ago and we managed to beat them. And it was a young side, but for us, it's, we're playing MK Dons. The MK Dons manager would have been saying to those players that you're going out and you're representing the club and you've got the badge or the crest on your chest. You need to go out and do it justice. And we won the game, and then we played Reading under 23s as well, and we lost to them on penalties. And the same thing there, we've gone out to try and win the game, and I'm sure the same thing in the opposite changing room, the Reading manager would have been saying, look guys, you've got to go and execute. So we those fixtures always give you a little bit more, but then like I said, there are a few teams that are at a higher step than us in our county cup, so they're live games, and we want to win them. But like I said, there are times that you do make changes, and it just, for me, it always just depends on how quickly the games are coming. That's my main concern.
Because I know last year, I mean, Craig Edwards, the manager at Cheshunt, they got to the final of the, I think it was the Middlesex Cup, they got to the final. I don't know if you saw when he was on the show in the last year what he was saying about that, because I think he went through the list of all the different sort of county cups and said, well, look, like your one, I think if I'm right, Sam was played at MK Dons, somebody else was played here, this one was played there, and the Norfolk one was played at Norwich, etc., etc., etc. And because it was Cheshunt versus, I think it was a Hadley, I think the Step 5 team at the time, and they played, they put it at Potters Bar United.
Yeah.
And he was not pleased.
Funny enough, I spoke to him. I was actually speaking to him about a player at the time, and it was just in the I think just after he probably found out where that was in the build up to that. So yeah. And I fully respect what he's saying. I think he's right. I think the county cups, the county FAs can do a little bit more. I think they could, to try and encourage, one of the senior sides to host the final. That's where the county FAs need to try and earn their bread. So they need to do that really for me. But I empathise with him totally. He's a good guy. I think he's quite a reasonable guy as well. So you upset him, I think it takes a lot. He's been around. He's seen a lot.
I don't think he was talking about different people. I think not wanting to face on the touchline. I think that's somebody who will want to face on the touchline, especially if he gets somebody sent off.
Do you know what? I've managed to get him a few times. I think I quite like him. I think mutual respect. So I think we've never really had any crosses. I quite like him. Like I said, I've reached out to him a few times about players and vice versa. So but yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine, he's not the best person to get on. Yeah.
I always used to describe him to his face. For me, he's a 24-carat diamond. I think the bloke's a legend. But it's one of those things. I always used to, when someone said describe Craig Edwards to me, and I used to say he's one of those blokes you won't want to see in a light alley, let alone in a dark alley.
He's a good guy. I'm sure he can handle himself. He's like I said, he's one of the ones that I think people probably think twice about storming into his technical area or whatever.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Mark, before we let you go, I mean, tell us a little bit about the club. Tell us a little bit about Marlow, and and what's what the club consists of. I mean, give us a little background on Marlow itself.
Yeah, so look, for me, Marlow's a fantastic sort of traditional non-league club. I think when you go to Marlow, I think we've got when you look at the ground, it's got a lot of character in the ground. So I think it's got a little bit of everything for everyone, right? So groundhoppers love the ground because of the main stand. It's got a lot of character, like I said.
Iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and in a lovely part of the world, right? Marlow itself is a lovely town. Lots to kind of do down by the river and stuff like that. So it's great there. In terms of the club itself, you've got a hardcore of sort of volunteers that kind of keep the club going, as happens with many sort of non-league clubs up and down the country. A board of guys there who help to try and drive the club forward as much as they can within the confines of the the financial constraints that they have, which is reasonable. Good supporter base as well, so kind of almost like a sort of barbell piece where you've got some established supporters that have been there pretty much since I've been at the club. Really, really supportive, kind of get behind you. And then you've got the sort of younger guys that have started to come in the last couple of years, so like sort of some of the teenage guys, and they help us out a lot with the opposition goalkeepers and stuff like that. So they give them a little bit of stick behind the goals. They're great to have. I really love having those guys in. And it's just a really, really nice, it's a nice place to sort of come and play and be involved in football, because genuinely the sort of the feeling and the culture of the club is supportive, and everybody's generally nice, right? There are very few idiots attached to the club. And then from my perspective, in terms of managing, what we try to do is to provide a platform for players to come in and play at this level. Sometimes they're probably more on the younger end. Give them a chance to come in, play, get some games under their belts, develop, and then try and move on to the high echelons of football. And so that's really that's the sweet spot for me. Those are the players that I try to attract. Some of those that, actually, if you come to Marlow, you're going to get an opportunity to play. Even if you're a young player, we're going to work hard to develop you to make sure that you're better when you leave than you are when you came through the door. And hope that we can propel you on to go and fulfill your potential and, whatever that might be higher up the food chain. So I think it's a really well sort of organized club. It's a really well structured and, well planned kind of process that we have as a management team. And it all just seems to work. It all seems to hang together really, really well. And so, from my perspective, like I said, it's been a pleasure. I've been there 10 years now, but it's been a pleasure to sort of manage the team.
And is that the one thing, that's the last question for you, is that the one thing that makes you the proudest if you've got a player that's played for you and, and you've improved them and they move on to the next step up the ladder? Is that the one thing that, that you're the most proud, that makes you more proud of than anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I take this job seriously. I think very few managers get into non-league football to try and, make a huge financial gain. The reason why I'm still involved here is because I have the opportunity to bring, sometimes, boys with, maybe from different backgrounds and maybe sort of, checkered upbringings, and give them an opportunity to come into an environment where I'll improve them as players, but also more importantly, I'll improve them as young men and as human beings. And so that's what I try to do. So, I'm equally as proud of, players that have gone on to play professionally, as I am of players who have come into my environment. And then actually next thing, I'm writing job references or I'm writing references for them to get housing or whatever else, that's what gives me the pride, is that actually I'm saying, look, this person came in, they were here and now they're working, they managed to get themselves accommodation, their life is on an upward trajectory. And that's what, if I've had a small kind of influence on that, then that for me is what makes me most proud. I love the fact that people go and play professionally, but for me to be able to steer someone who might be heading down one path into, gainful employment and understanding how they can be an upstanding member of their community wherever they live, then, that for me is, that's why I do it.
Well, happy days. Well, listen, mate, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and speaking so well. And we wish you and Marlow all the very best in all your cup games against Binfield and everybody else. No. But mate, we do wish you and thank you for coming on tonight and wish you all the success down there. Next week we'll be joined. We're actually off to Wales next week, because joining us next week, of course, is Paul Michael, the manager of Merthyr Tydfil. So he'll be joining us on the show next week, and we can talk all about their reprieve, etc., as well, and about how well they've had a great start so far this season as well, beating Plymouth Parkway at the weekend as well. So from me and of course from Mark, until next week, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.